We have opened the doors officially,
All
and people have started to
right.
come in. Oh my goodness, we have over 50 people here already. Welcome, everyone.
Wow.
I
Good
see
afternoon.
63, 64, 65. Woohoo!
A rolling commentary of how many people are here.
All
So what
right.
is our record, Trace?
Uh,
I don't remember. I'd have to look it up.
all
I'm not
right.
good with numbers.
Looking for some names. All right. I see a Robert Builder box. So we got Nashville calling. I see a Tara Lewis from the Ministry Success team. What's up, Tara?
I see my former boss here. Hey, Kevin. I think Kevin comes to all of our webinars.
I think it's because he likes you. He doesn't even care about the content. He just likes Trace.
I think he was happy to get rid of me.
There's something snarky I could say to that, but don't dare because I love having you on the team.
When has that ever stopped you, Chris?
Listen, I'm getting older. I'm growing. I'm growing. My wife reminds me that I'm growing. What's up, Andy Lang? I don't know
Oh,
if it's
wow.
frigid in the north or not. Let's see who else we got. We got Barbara Green. Hey, Barb. This is going to be old hat to you. You've been tearing up Claude the last couple days, but hopefully there's some things you'll sneak out of this. We got Jason Miracle. What's up, Jason? Dr. Jeff Frazier times two. So, Jeff, you're on two computers? Like we have you twice, phone and computer, so you can.
Maybe dialed in. Yeah.
Oh, so he hung up one. So much fun. Who else can I pick on?
Embarrassed him.
We've got a few people who have hit the chat already, letting us know where they're from. Would love to hear from the rest of you guys. Where
Let
are
us
you coming
know.
from? Wait, somebody's first meeting? Sonia Johnson?
Yeah, definitely let us
Rudy
know if you're a
Johnson?
first timer to this funness.
This
Well,
funness. That's what we're going to officially call it moving forward. This funness.
We used to call it a webinar. Now we call it the funness once a month.
welcome, Vicky.
Oh, this is great. All right, I have to
Love
close.
it. Oh, Cindy, welcome. Your first meeting is very exciting.
It's kind of feeling like it might be a blowout, Trace. This might be the biggest one.
I know.
Kind of
I know.
exciting.
That means I guess we better bring it, huh? We better be on our A game.
Well, for all of you who are coming for the first time, we will get started in just a minute. And a quick reminder, I know Trace will do this officially during the webinar. We record all these. We did this all last year. There is a lot of great content over at kingdomcreations.ai. So if you want to catch past episodes, they are all there. Some of them will feel like repeats, but if you work backwards, you get the best content first, and then it starts getting highly repetitive as you work backwards.
Yes, but some of our earlier webinars, I think, are a lot more basic level too. So that's a
Yeah.
good one.
Some of the early Boodlebox ones were pretty awesome.
Boodlebox was good. And then the one where we did the tool roundup.
Well, there's
That
multiple
one, that
tool
was a fun
roundups.
one. Pardon?
There's a couple of tool roundups though.
Well, one of them we did at the conference last year. So it wasn't a true webinar. So it's not in our webinar archive.
Yeah,
Although
we didn't record that one.
I know. I
Yeah.
wish we had that.
All
All
right.
right. Well, we're a couple minutes in. I know people are going to continue to roll in. But because there's so many of us and for in the sake of time, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So Chris, I'm going to let you do the welcoming and the big hug and howdy that you normally do.
All right, we are recording.
I suppose I should record. Are
It
we
says
recording?
recording is on. All right, here
There
we
we
go.
go.
In 3, 2, 1. All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to another AI in Ministry webinar. We are so excited you guys are here today. We've got the whole team on today so that you get to learn a little bit about Claude Cowork from 5 very different angles. So in the event many of you haven't met all these people, we will introduce them in just 1 second so that I don't get ahead of myself. But first, a word from
Not our sponsor, but the housekeeper. As Chris mentioned, we are recording. You will get a copy of the recording and the slide deck in an email, as well as it's always available out on kingdomcreations.ai/webinars. And then if you guys can do us a big old favor, please use the Q&A panel when you have questions, because I don't know if you've noticed, but the chat itself moves pretty darn fast. And it's hard for us to keep up with know what all questions we haven't answered and stuff like that. And the Q&A panel does a great job of helping us out with that. So please use the Q&A panel for questions. And with that, Chris, I think some intros.
Let's do some intros. So, if I haven't met you, if this is your first time, hi, I'm Chris Cahias. I am in charge of AI adoption and innovation at ACST, and this is my team, and I'm excited to introduce them to you. But today, I'm just your host and tour guide. All right, we got Patrick Abernathy. He is our original innovation dev dude, which means he helps do all the fun stuff, and he also gets to lead some of the other people on our team. We have Cannon Miles, who has been our innovation apprentice for the last 6 months, 4 months, 5 months, something like that.
6 months.
He's has wrapped up his college degree in engineering, and we've had him working with the team, and we're excited that he gets to co-share today. We've also got Trip Lisenby. If his name looks familiar and you've been around ACS a long time, yes, same family, but way better hair. We're really excited that Trip is on our team. Trip is actually an innovation apprentice, and we're hoping to have him become very quickly a full-time member of the team. But Trip has been an instrumental part of the team. He is an AI. I like to call him my AI native. And he is assisting with all the creation of all the things that we build as well. And last, but definitely not least, we got Trace Jackson, who is our innovation wrangler. If you wonder what that title means, no, that is not her official title, but it is what she does. As you noticed, she happens to be the only super talented female on our team, and she does keep the wheels on this bus rolling, and sometimes has to herd all the guys, as we all tend to see something new and shiny and run after it. So with that, let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to go first. So making Cowork work for you. That's what my segment's going to be called, and we're going to introduce Claude Cowork to you. So Claude Cowork, it is a tool that is meant to be used pretty much in the desktop app of Claude. So getting started, you are going to need a Claude account. So Claude, from the company called Anthropic, is probably one of the leading frontier AI models today. And what Claude Cowork is going to do is it lets you do some pretty powerful things in your computer, and we're going to be demonstrating all of that as well as we move through this. So, a couple things for you to know. If you're going to use Cowork and you want to access files on your computer, right now it only works with files in your home directory. Now, as of the moment I wrote, we are having this webinar. That may all change tomorrow because Anthropic just released news today that they are going to let Claude Code drive your entire computer, but that's only available on Mac, and that news is less than 4 hours old. So as we say in all of our webinars, time is, everything is constantly changing, so you have to kind of try to keep up. So what makes Claude Cowork so much more powerful than chat is it works in an agentic loop. The same way Claude Code does for developers, this allows you to do more with big lists of files or anything on your computer than what you could just do with a chat. And the big bonus is you don't have to upload all of them one at a time into the chat to work with them. In addition to this, Claude Cowork has a growing list of plugins, so things that can help you. There's actually a legal review plugin. As you see here, design, operations, engineering, all kinds of great stuff, HR. So lots of really interesting plugins. None of them are necessary to get started. We just want you to know that they're there. So what we're going to do in this first demo is we're going to take a folder and a bunch of files, and we're going to do some analysis of it. We're basically going to replay something we've done in the past for you. We did a Boodlebox session where we took a bunch of resumes and a job description and shoved them all in and did it. Well, that's great, but we had to do it all by hand. We had to do a lot of copy and paste. So for today's demo, we're going to do it a little differently. I got a folder on my computer, and you can see I've got 5 resumes and a job description. There's some bonuses in there. There's also some Python scripts I'll tell you right now, Claude Cowork generated everything we're working with. So even when you want to do a test, you can use Claude Cowork to create synthetic or like fake data to do the work with. So example of job description, we've got a job posting for a night shift security officer, funny enough, at an AI data center. And we've also got a bunch of resumes. So we got 5 different resumes, different backgrounds, etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Claude Cowork and we're going to aim it at that folder. So I'm hitting the little choose a different folder. I'm going to get my folder, then I'm going to throw my prompt in. My prompt, don't worry about the prompt. So if you're here and you're new, you're probably going, this is great, but I don't know how to prompt. That's when you click the little chat button over there and go, here's what I want to do. I have a bunch of PDFs and a job description in a folder, and I want to analyze them. Write a prompt for me. Seriously, it can be that easy. I know 3 years ago, prompt engineering was a job. That job is gone. Nobody cares. The AI will write its own prompt for you now. So in this case, I'm writing a very simple thing. Review the PDFs. The job description will be the primary file, and we want to review each resume. Now, if we could roll back, we're not going to, and you looked at the file names, there is no file names that says job space description or resume file. The word job description is kind of in there with some underscores and stuff, and the word resume is in the other ones. The AI is smart enough to infer what you mean. So as you start to work with this or any other AI today, don't be perfect. You do not have to be perfect. The whole point is it has an inference engine and it will understand. So I'm asking it to produce a ranking report and we'll hit go. Now, we're doing this as screenshots. That took about 30 to 45 seconds for it to actually do that work. There's a little bit going on. It's got to analyze the PDFs, extract everything out. You can see it running here. And when we're done, I get a lovely output that shows you here are my top picks and they are ranked and ordered. Now, it also produced a Word document for me that actually explains all of the reasons why these people were set up the way they were. So again, super powerful. Imagine what you could do with this in ministry. You don't necessarily just have to use it from an HR or a hiring perspective. You could really use it to do analysis of any kind or series of documents. So what else could we do? I could ask custom interview questions next. So if I pick the top 3, I could say, hey, the top 3, let's ask additional questions. I could also reuse that folder later. Let's say I have all my resumes in one folder and I get a new job description. Well, now I could rerun my list of available candidates and see if they fit a different job description better. The whole point is when you did it in chat, you kind of had a context for a chat and then the chat got old and you had to start over. In this case, because it's a folder, I can keep coming back to it and growing the knowledge.
All right. Well, for my part, I will say this was a really fun exercise to walk through as far as like setting up for this webinar. Because when I set up webinars, I jumped through a lot of hoops. And I decided that is what I would show you, how Cowork can like do these simple office tasks for you while literally having it set up the webinar for me. So I'll show you what we did together. But first, I do want to mention that I use Fathom. It's just a system that will record all of our team meetings, and then it just generates a transcript. So we had a meeting where we talked about what this webinar would be about, what we would present, et cetera. And I took that meeting's transcript and then I fed it into a Cowork chat. And then I prompted Cowork to just basically draft a title and description of the webinar for me. And you can see that down the chat, it provided me exactly what I asked for. Perfect. Now, I said, create the webinar for me in Zoom. I had no idea if it was going to do this or not. And here's where we started to have a little bit of a tussle. And I know that there's always going to be those initial setups, those connections that you have to create or whatever. But, well, you'll see what I mean by tussle as we go along. It said I needed a Zoom connector and asked if I wanted it to set it up for me. Or I could do it myself, and that would just defeat the purpose here now, wouldn't it? So option 1 it is. And then the Chrome extension wasn't connected, but I begged to differ, and I said so. Tussle, tussle, tussle. It's telling me, no, it's not, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Fine. I tried turning it off and on again. Tussle, tussle, tussle. We were in a little bit of a battle of the wits here. So I showed receipts. Tussle, tussle, tussle. You get the idea. Fine. I removed the connector altogether, added it back in, and what do you know? Well, then it got to work. And as Cowork is chugging along, it is kind of entertaining to watch as it narrates its own progress. So you can see here, it sees the schedule a webinar page. It starts by clicking the template drop down, which was kind of cool. It knew I wanted a template. It sees the AI administry template. Let me select it. Okay, it's selected. Let me prefill. So it's kind of fun to watch it work. My work is to watch it work. I love that. All right, so then I realized after the fact that I used the wrong time. So I had to redirect it there and it started chugging again. And this was another fun one to watch. So as you can see, it's like I changed it from like 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So it went from a.m. to p.m. And it's trying to catch the AM PM selector. And it says, oh, I need to scroll up to find 2 o'clock. Let me scroll up in this drop down. Oh, I see the PM times. I need to scroll down just a bit to find 2. Oh, I scrolled too far. I can see 3 o'clock and later times. So that was kind of fun as well. Entertaining. All right. Now, you may have noticed originally when I was showing you the title and description that Cowork came up with, it wasn't exactly the same title and description of this webinar that you signed up for, because I did decide to change it after I had created the Zoom webinar. And I was curious to see how Cowork would manage edits after the initial creation. So here you can see I just had it make the changes and it had no issue making changes after the fact. Now here's where I had it add the panelists that you're hearing from today. And that was in another tab on the Zoom webinar interface. And again, it had no problem finding the tab and then making that update either. So then I thought, well, why not create the Google folder that I need to hold all of the webinar files like our agenda and this very slide deck. I wanted to see if it would navigate my Google Drive, create the folder, use the right folder name based on the syntax or the file name structure of the other folders there, because I do follow file name pattern. It detected the pattern, created my folder, no problem. Another fun one was having it schedule a webinar walkthrough with this team. So it looked at all of our calendars, found shared availability, and presented some options for me. I selected the one I wanted. I told it to schedule it and add everyone, which then invited them all to the walkthrough. Now, notice that the work that I did was in these 2 Cowork folders. I shouldn't call them folders, chat conversations. On a lark, I decided to create another chat conversation and see if it had cross chat memory or reference. And it doesn't. Now, I know that's something that you can turn on ChatGPT, but it didn't do that for me here in Cowork. So that was kind of a fun little exercise. Anyway, that's how I used Cowork. And now it is Cannon's turn.
Yeah, so thank you. A thing you're probably going to notice with a lot of these is that you're combining tasks on the internet with local files on your computer. So here's an example that I came up with that, was actually relevant to me. So recently I was shopping for headphones and, I could spend hours researching, which, you know, who has time for that? So let's let Cowork do it. I entered a basic prompt, just price range, say I'm willing to buy used, that sort of thing. And then I noted in there, kind of like what Chris was alluding to, you don't have to specify every little thing. I can kind of let it reason and just say, whatever other information you think would be useful, provide it to me, and then give me a spreadsheet at the end as a result. So let's pull in that internet capability with local files. And it'll walk through the process like Trace mentioned as well. And you can kind of see how it reasons through all these steps as it happens and get an idea of how it does its work. And it'll show you it does all of these things at once. So that's another benefit here. Dozens of tabs, dozens of websites looking at retail prices, used prices, way faster than if I've done it myself. In the end, you get a summary of all your results, a top pick, some alternatives, and your sources are cited. and it's double checked. So I even double checked myself. Everything in here is the same research I would have gotten myself just from, I mean, an hour's worth of work in 5 minutes. And as you can see, the pick here were the Sennheisers. The interesting thing is, this is a pair of headphones that went on sale at the end of last week. I got a newsletter about it. And this proves that this was able to use more recent information to reason, what is the best deal right now. If you go on like a Google search, Google shopping, a lot of times those deals are stale or they don't exist anymore. And it's just not useful at all to get, oh, this thing's on sale. You click on the page, it's not on sale anymore, completely different price. And then you have to go back to researching again. What's the good deal right now? Just snowballs. And of course, at the end, you get a spreadsheet as well. So this compiles everything into a local file that you can come back and review or update later. And it's pretty detailed, just disclaimers, when the data was pulled, sources, pros and cons. And like I said, these are accurate to what I would get if I researched myself. And it's all nicely organized. And you can always come back later if you change your mind or want to run the review again and see what else is out there. But yeah, pretty useful.
A nice looking spreadsheet. Okay, I have to ask, did you end up getting the headphones?
I'm considering it. If I'm going to buy a new pair, it will be that pick. That was actually the exact same one I came to with my own results. And, I'm not cooking the books here. It really did come to the same conclusion, which is the coolest thing ever. And yeah, just exciting.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Okay, Trip.
Yeah, that's great, Ken. Real powerful with how easy it is. But glad to be here. First time being here. But I want to talk about how scheduled tasks are so easy with Claude Cowork. So when I first joined back in late October, I was using Gemini Notes to take like my meeting notes. And so before Clawwork was a thing, it was all just thrown in there with random dates and it was all just notes by Gemini. And I had no idea what I was looking at. So in the next one, I did a sort of a big app script because Google lets you do that. And this way it was for easier sorting what the date was, but this is really heavy developer stuff. Like if you look into that, that's a lot of code. And so that can be confusing for just your regular person or usual. I mean, most people don't understand this stuff. So that's where that Cowork can really help. But right now, we're migrating to Microsoft 365. And so I'll have to find some way to get my notes organized. I'll have to do it through Teams, maybe through Copilot. And the whole layout is probably very different. And so it may take a really long time to set it back up. And so I'll have to transfer it all over again. But there's no need for me to fear or any of us to fear because Claude Cowork is here. So what we can do with Cowork now is it has a bunch of connectors. And so one is Microsoft 365. And that gives you access to everything about Microsoft 365. That's the Teams, Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, blah, blah, blah. And so you can pair this up with Cowork for easy automation. And you don't need any of the developer tools like N8N or anything to just schedule the task together in 2 minutes. And so on the next tab, I'll show you how to do that. So with this knowledge that we now have, we can set up super easy new task to do what we were doing before, but in minutes. So you can talk about, you can name it, you can put a description. And this prompt, like Chris was talking about earlier, I just went to Claude and said, hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you make me a prompt? And it made a prompt and I just copy pasted. But one of its downfalls that we talked about is because of the safety precautions that we were talking about, scheduled tasks for Claude Cowork are only able to run if Claude Cowork is awake on your machine. Which for most people, that's not a problem because they're working 9 to 5. So if that schedule is in there in that time frame, it doesn't really matter. But you'll see on the next slide, I had made a ton of these things. So this is not a real problem for me. I've made up files to clean my files in local storage, super organized in there. I've cleaned up my Google Drive as well. Even a scheduled task for calendar triage, innovation check-ins. We have these meetings every Monday and Wednesday, and I just wanted to have, just pull from what I've done this week. And so I can make sure I'm up to date with all I've done, and I can make sure to reference anything I need. And so this is an example of the calendar triage scheduling task that I set up, which took me 5 minutes. And like I said earlier, I said, "Hey, Claude, I want to make a calendar triage schedule." And so, okay, it gave me all these instructions and I just copy pasted. And then it's running every day in the morning right for work so I can check my emails and everything and make sure I'm up with the day. And then this is just an example of what it comes out with. And so you can see it goes through your meetings. It says you have this, this, and this. But oh, you haven't responded to this one. And so, but you don't have any scheduling conflicts. So, and then it labels your focus blocks, which really helps you know. But these are some of the scheduling tasks that I was talking about earlier. But as you can see, what we've talked about, Cowork is not just a scheduler. So I've done several things that aren't in this picture, but there's just so much you can do with Cowork. And but yeah.
That's awesome. You will never be late to another one of my meetings ever again.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but can't do
Thanks, Jim.
magic.
Right. All right, Patrick, to you.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to all the first-time joiners. My name is Patrick Abernathy, and like introduced earlier, I'm the dev dude. And let's see. So my tagline was, "But wait, there's more." So I'm actually going to kind of tail off a little bit from Trip because when Trip joined us, he did do the really fun Gemini notes. So go ahead, Trace. So my first task, and Chris said earlier that Trace is the Wrangler, and unfortunately, that is very much true. So, in an attempt to be better at not needing to be so much wrangled, I was like, "Hey, let's set up a Cowork and check all my meeting notes, check all my tasks, and in the morning, send me an email. I need to know everything I need to do today." Trace even went so far as to give me Fathom to try to keep me on track. I mean, that's pretty bad. Sorry, Trace. Um, so I was like, okay, let's hook this up to my Gmail. Let's check all my notes, check all my emails, and it's actually reading the transcripts from those emails and from those meetings to build me a daily digest. Go ahead, Trace. Sorry, I did all screenshots, not separate flows. Uh, so I was just like, I had started this. Gemini was cool. I got Fathom, and I was like, hey, take my scheduled task and let's go ahead and update it. So a really nice thing is everything evolves. So what's really cool is you can go back at any time to Cowork and just be like, hey, let's add some more to my schedule. So in this case, I had a pre-existing schedule. And I was like, now that I have Fathom, let's go check my email and grab the Fathom notes. Let's go ahead. And you'll see here, it's like, hey, I've got Fathom. Let's go ahead, add it in. Sorry, I'm skimming real quick. So it read all my email, grabbed my Fathom notes out. And then I was like, let's restructure it a little bit. And also you'll see down at the bottom, I was like, hey, let's go ahead and include some AI news. We are innovation. So, if I can get the top points of innovation, or sorry, top points for the AI that's come out recently, it'd be really handy to have that because as everybody knows, everything changes every day. So, and you'll see here, this is an email that it actually, and I'm going to say drafted for me. And it says, I have no task. Unfortunately, this one failed miserably for some reason because I wish. But I was laughing with Trace. It's just, I have tried so hard to get this to work and do some other things that it couldn't do. So like Trace had mentioned earlier, she was, what is it, tussle with Cowork. And I was like, this is not working out for me. I could not get connectors. I argued with Cowork constantly, so I couldn't get into things. Go ahead, Trace. And then every time I was like, send me an email, it's like, I can't send an email. So one thing you'll find with Cowork, both good or bad, has boundaries built in. It can't do specific things. And that's, Chris said earlier, it can only read your home directory. So it's taking a lot of things that maybe Claude Code could do, but putting boundaries around it. And the reason we want to do that is, use your connectors, keep your files local, use the use as much power as you need to get, but within its constraints. So at the end of the day, it really can only do the things it can do. As someone who has used Claude Code for a very long time, I said that's not good enough for me. So on the next one, I took this morning briefing. It's the exact same thing. What I actually did is took these instruction lists and I gave it to Claude Code. So Claude Code recently came out with what's called the scheduler. So it's very much sorry, it's very much well, it's very much like Cowork, but then you're moving into the Claude Code ecosystem where a lot of those boundaries that you're restricted to are now gone. So go ahead and do the next one. So I said, hey, can you help me recreate this task? So I literally took that task, and you'll notice at the top, if you have Claude Cowork, you also have access to Claude Code. So when you go into Claude Code, you can just say, create this schedule with this exact same parameters. And it's like, hey, I can do that. And then I was like, and then I want you to actually email it to me. So on the next one, you'll see I actually have set up resend, which is it's just a quick way to send emails. So I hooked it up to my resend account and I was like, and I need to know all the PRs. So one thing that I'm responsible for that Trace is always poking me about is there are PRs that you need to review. So I was like, but I struggled with getting connectors and Cowork. So, and Cowork couldn't reach it any other way without a connector, but Claude Code can. So I was like, let's do PRs. And so it actually sent me this very nice email. So in
That's
this
really slick.
and it
it's
loves
pretty.
emojis. So it's always sending us emojis. So, but this way I'm actually getting daily reminders. And this is if you're comfortable with Cowork but need it to take the next step, there is, and you will get it if you have Cowork on that plan, you do have the access to the Claude Code. You can use the scheduler. Once again, it's removing those guardrails that Cowork has. So, you open up your ecosystem, you now access to your full file system. Um, so it's always with that, addendum on there that the guardrails have been removed if you go this direction. But for some simple tasks like this that need a little more advanced digging into, it can really cover that gap.
I don't know about you guys are hearing, but in this webinar, I'm hearing that my life is going to get easier. Is that what you guys are all walking away with? All right, moving on.
Shake my head. Shaking my head. All right. So we're going to round out the end with a little segment I like to call I Hate Repetitive Tasks. If you haven't figured it out yet, the people who are using AI, we all have something in common. I would like to say that we have a love of accelerating and getting more done in a day, but the reality is I'm lazy. So I do want to raise my hand and just go, there are just certain things that I just don't want to do. So for this final demo, we're going to talk about a real life thing that I recently had to do. My wife, we took a trip overseas, and she had about 543 images that were taken on various iPhones. And with your iPhone, if you do it this way or this way, it sticks some data in there that tells the picture which way it was rotated. And that is all well and good when you're on a super powerful Mac or a PC and you double click that icon and open it. When you want to push 544 pictures to a cheap photo frame that is hanging on the wall, the world gets a little more interesting. So here were the problems. The problems were those HEIC files, that high efficiency image compressed file, took about 15 seconds to open and show on the screen, which, she didn't like. Anything that was taken vertically got flipped on its side. That's that EXIF rotation data. The images were huge. And I didn't like it. So I set out on this journey. And it's great because my first screenshot of this, it's a cool moment to show you. The very first time you try to use Claude Cowork with a folder, it's going to ask you for permission to it. Now, here's the important thing to remember. It can access only the folders you say yes to. So I'm going to raise my hand right now and say, do not, thou shalt not give it access to your full user profile or even all of your documents. Don't do that. Don't do that. You are giving an AI access to everything that you have in that folder. So always create a new folder and just know that whatever you put in that folder or any folder beneath that folder, the AI will have access to. So Patrick was telling you Claude Code is crazy powerful, but it doesn't have the same guardrails that Cowork does. So this is one of the great guardrails for Cowork is that only the folder you give it and everything beneath it. So, all right, let's get into this project because I think some of you are going to find this incredibly powerful. By the way, back in the day, I would have fired up Photoshop and I would have created a batch and I would have done all of this stuff in Photoshop the old school way using an action and then an action into a batch. So any of you who are old school Photoshop people, there's always a way to solve these problems. But I don't have Photoshop anymore. Nobody wants to buy me that piece of software these days. But I do have AI, and I will say the result of this is my lazy factor went through the roof. All right, let's go to work.
Did you give them the little tip, that last bullet on using the underscore?
I'm gonna do that in a second.
Okay.
I will. All right, so here's my folder. If you can tell already, we went to Ireland and the UK. Well, totally lots of fun. But look at the size of those files. I got 22 meg, 10 meg, 11 meg, 10 meg, and these HEIC ones, which are nice and small, but open slower than molasses on a winter day in Michigan. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Claude Cowork to do this. So here we go. Knock something off my list. Same thing. Pick my photo demo. Review this folder of images. And I'm just going to tell it what I want. Process each one. I want to resize to a maximum dimension of 2048 pixels. So that doesn't matter if it's vertical or horizontally taken, whichever the biggest dimension is, the biggest dimension will now be 2048 pixels. Fix any rotation issues based on that EXIF data. By the way, you don't even need to know what that acronym stands for. I don't know what that stands for. I just know that that's how it stores the rotation data. And guess how I learned that? In a chat one time, I said, how can I figure out how to correctly rotate? And it said, oh, modern images are stored with EXIF data. And it actually told me what it meant. I don't remember what it meant. I don't want to remember what it meant, but I want it to know what it's doing. So then I'm saying, oh, go back. I'm not done. Then save all the images to a new subfolder, the underscore processed with the original file name. Now, some of you are going, why underscore processed? Well, here's a tip for all of you. Underscore shows up at the top, and I didn't want to get into this whole hoopla of it renaming the files. I don't want the files commingled with my files because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stick a USB stick in my computer, go to the process folder, copy all of them over there, walk over to the photo frame, load these, and I get to put a check mark on my wife's to-do whiteboard. Yes, my wife has a to-do whiteboard right by the front door because it's better than her telling me and me forgetting. So no HEIC, and I said use standard compression on the JPEGs. I did not have to say that, but I'm kind of anal retentive about talking to AI these days, so I went ahead and told it that. All right, I hit go. It went to work. The day that I did this for real, it took about 15 minutes, so I went and made a coffee, and I came back, and I had 544 images. This took about 15 seconds, and it processed all 35 images. It's told me what it did, and the folder now looks like this. Look at that. Everything is tiny and they're all JPEGs and they load really fast. And just in case some of you photo purists are feeling bad about the fact that I reduced them so much, I included this shot off of the west coast of Ireland just to prove to you that no image fidelity was lost, or none that my wife could tell on the photo frame. So again, one more very cool use case for using Claude Cowork to just knock out a repetitive task that you don't feel like doing. It's great. So I guess the moral of today's webinar is go make Claude Cowork work for you. So, or Claude Cowork working for you, working for me, working for all of us. All right. I know we've got some questions. We can't have a webinar like this without them. So let's dive into some questions.
All right. Well, Patrick, were you watching the questions? Because I've been driving over here, so I'm not familiar with what's in the Q&A panel.
Been
Go ahead and
trying
ask
to.
a question. Pick one, Patrick.
Okay, I'm just going to start at the top. Rebecca asks, how do you address the ethical concerns that some people may have, whether or not to give AI disclosure for content like webinar outlines, general content, or graphics, slides, social media graphics used in public arenas?
I mean, I'll answer that one. We've done a whole session a couple times on the ethics of this. I really think that, back in the days when we had ministry platform, there were things that we called churchy decisions. And it's basically hey, you've really got to figure this out on your own. It's one of the reasons why every organization should have some form of an AI policy. We've got a formal webinar. We talked about it. We kind of launched everyone into doing it. The ethical concerns, I don't really see most of the ethical concerns the way most of you do. There is a line for me. The line is, don't have AI write your sermon. We are church people. The best sermon any of my pastors have ever preached was a fire. All right, welcome back, everybody. Was a fire they walked through. And so just sharing with you to say, I think you have to work out the ethics on your own. At my church, my pastor uses AI pretty much every second or third week to create some image that he uses within the sermon. When there's something weird, like he had a person with 7 fingers one day, he calls it out and has a lot of fun making fun of it. But he doesn't feel compelled to have to say, oh, this was AI. Oh, that was AI. If we're all honest, we live in a world where even if you look like, I would say 30 to 40%, this is me being conservative. I think it's a lot higher than that, to be honest with you, of the content on YouTube is AI driven at this point. So I think the answer is I don't see the ethical dilemma in a lot of that. I know that there's an entire group of people who do, so I'm not discrediting the idea that there's an ethical dilemma. But for the things that we're talking about today, I'm not seeing the ethics problem. If your church has a feeling that using AI to generate images means you need to attribute that to AI, go for it. Laws were just passed in the arena that says you cannot copyright an AI generated image now. So this is an ever evolving space. So do hear me say each organization needs a policy on it, but I couldn't definitively give you one over the other. All right, next.
Justin asked, and this might be a two-parter. What are the security and privacy boundaries of Claude Cowork? And what happens with that data that's shared into Claude once Claude starts to work?
The security boundaries are, it's only kind of at the end of the webinar, talking about where, which folder you start with. That is that you are, in fact, giving Anthropic and the Claude LLM access to anything in that folder. So that's why I said, bear in mind, do not do your whole home folder. Do not do, one of the beauties is you could not accidentally, or nobody on your team could accidentally give it, say, the entire network drive. So again, one of those guardrails by having it locked to your home folder is there is a scoping that says there's only so much data that could be given to it. From a privacy point of view, I'm going to say to you guys, Anthropic happens to be one of the leading companies in the AI space right now where it comes to safety, security, and privacy. They made fun of other AI companies in the Super Bowl over things like spicy mode and over, how shall we say, not safe for work content and ideas on it. So I would say to you, Anthropic is definitely leading the way on AI security and privacy. As avid users of Claude Code, I'm going to ask Cannon, Trip, and Patrick, show of hands, have you accidentally used a secret key And Anthropic immediately went, "You failed. You need to rotate this key because you gave me something I should not have seen." Raise your hand if that has happened to you in the time that you have worked here. Yeah, so it's really good at kind of inline taking a look at what it's doing and knowing I'm probably not supposed to see this. So it'll actually say it to you. Now, that said, things we've talked about in the past. You should have a paid account. You should probably have a team account. If it's free, you are the product. Just bear that in mind. Most of the major frontier models are not training on anything you put in anymore, but if you go read the terms and services, they legally potentially could. All right, next.
All right, it's a whole bunch. I'm just starting for the list. Terms of service for all agentic AI recommends not using A2A for HR, HPPA, or financial information. Sorry, this is from David, right? I didn't specify.
Yeah.
Do you
So
disclose?
go keep going.
I was just
Well,
going
the
to say,
question, yeah. I was
Yeah,
going to say the
so
question is, do you disclose to your applicant that the resumes will be processed through an A2A agent?
So this is again, we're going to talk about one, we don't actually process. Our team does. We process anybody we hire. So Canon was chosen both by us and AI, but there's a couple things that are problematic here. That statement is not factual, so I'm not sure of the source on that. There is no universal guideline saying that AI is not for using is not for use in this. In fact, agentic AI is actively used in HIPAA. It is actively used in HR and financial. There are states, so California, Illinois are two that come to mind that require the disclosure to an applicant that their resumes have been processed through AI, but that is not a universal statement. So do we know as a company who is housed in South Carolina, those laws don't apply to us. And we do not use it as the sole method for doing it. But that's great. But yeah, I would go check your sources on that. There is no universal anything that warrants that. It's definitely actively used in HR, HIPAA, and finance.
Cool. So I'm curious if Patrick, Cannon, or Trip can answer some of these other questions. I know Chris does have to bounce. He's got another webinar he's got to get to.
Cool.
But I think we got through all of the security type questions. So Scott had a great question on cross memory. He's asking, can you ask Claude to look at other older chats to reference them to like catch it up on instructions or workflows or anything like that? Who wants to give that one a go?
I'll take that one. I've actually run into that a couple times. So Claude does have the concept of memory. So you obviously you can go in and when you're having a conversation, you can ask it to remember stuff, and that will apply across other conversations. But as far as looking back into other conversations, I actually have asked it to do that a couple times. It does kind of store it sort of while it's running, but it does not really retain it. Across other conversations. So if you're like, I had this other conversation, now if you do have its session token, you can continue conversations. But I personally have had difficulty actually cross conversations without either I have done a output this conversation to a document and then continued it on from there, or sorry, I got a hiccup all of a sudden, or yeah, so I've had difficulties with it doing cross conversations without usually making a bridge document or something in between, or using inline memory that it can have.
Yeah, but you also have to be careful with the inline memory because of what, Chris, you call it context. What is it?
Context rot.
Context rot. Can you explain that?
So yeah, that's a little outside of it, but the longer you use one chat, one thread, one anything, the more the AI is likely to hallucinate. So in the early days, I would say 4 weeks ago, and laughingly, before 4 weeks ago was the early days. Opus 4.6, which is the model we primarily use for coding, it only had a 200,000 token context window. So when you hit about 80% of that context window, it started to drift and hallucinate. Well, as of 4 weeks ago, Opus 4.6 now has a 1,000,000 token context window, which opens up a whole lot more. But the idea is whenever you're starting a new task, it's good to start a new thread and not just keep the conversation going. It helps the LLM focus, just like all of us, like it's good to go take a walk before you start a new project. We're just letting the LLM take a walk.
It's as easy as that. All right. Patrick, I know you were looking through the Q&A. Are there any in there that you want to take a stab at?
Let's see. Ryan asked about Claude connectors, any church management software solutions, and there was a similar one below it to help build APIs for MP. So to me, those kind of build on a little on each other. Is no, as far as I'm aware, there are no specific church management connectors. But yes, you can use Claude Code to build APIs.
You can also, there's a custom connector option in Cowork. And so if you build something like Patrick's talking about, you can build an MCP server and then therefore Cowork can talk with your church management system.
Cool. Good to
So
know. Good to know.
broad
if you can build one.
Broad strokes, yes. So there's definitely no plan to do it right now, and I will explain why. MCP servers are still a little bit of the wild, wild west of the AI landscape. So we could unpack that in a future episode, but MCP servers are considered by most security experts to be a risk, especially at the enterprise level. Again, that is an evolving landscape as well. But for now, it's probably going to be relegated to unsafe.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that. Canon, does Claude work with pages and numbers? I guess those are specific apps.
Yeah, so that's like Max version of Office, and yeah, it does work with those.
Okay, cool. Good to know. All right, so this is actually a really interesting question from Carlos. When would you use Claude versus Gemini if most of your work is done in the Google Workspace ecosystem?
I'm going to go the easy answer because I have access to both, but I still use Claude all the time, even if it's to get into the Gemini or get into the Google workspace. It's just Claude can do all of it. And frankly, from what I've seen, unless I'm using Nano Banana, I always go to Claude. So. Now, I will
For
say
those of
Claude
you who have
cannot
never
do
heard of
images.
Nano Banana, it's an image generator.
Yeah. So Nano Banana is Gemini's image creator. It's actually really good, but Claude does actually not have an image generator. So
Would you say that Claude does things, though, that Gemini doesn't with regard to the Google Workspace?
I'm just going to say it's a preference at that point. So because
Okay.
it's hooked
Okay.
into all my personal Claude and between Gemini and Claude, unless I'm on my phone or my kids need to use it, it's like I always bring Claude up first, even if it's to get into like email and my workspace stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of a preference because Gemini is great because in app you don't have to go anywhere, and it's very capable itself as well. But it's just a preference thing at that point.
All right, let's see. We kind of talked about the security measures.
I'll answer that one real quick. So there was a question does Claude work with Dropbox? Now,
Yeah.
that's an interesting one. I'd almost have to say clarify the question on that one because Dropbox at the end of the day is just file sync to your computer, so it can easily modify those. I personally know that Dropbox does have an API that I use on some fun little side projects, so it could easily use those APIs. I do not believe it has a direct connector, but I can search it real quick and come back to you on that one.
Okay, cool. Andy asked a great question. He says, is Boodlebox still worth looking at for church staff? Or would you recommend going with one of the majors? And I would say, Andy, if most of your church staff are fairly new to AI, Boodlebox is a really great entry level system because it will introduce them to pretty much all of the major models out there. And they can kind of play around, see what it feels like. And then it also has kind of where you can share folders and stuff with each other. So it's pretty cool. And of course, it's an ACST partner. So if you head to our website, we do actually have offer you guys like a free month, I think, with Boodlebox, so you can just kind of try it out, see what you think. So in that regard, I do think it is worth it. But if you're pretty much sold on, oh, we want everybody to use Gemini or something like that, then why get them used to something that they're not going to use in the long run? I don't know if that answers your question or not, or if that helps, but that's my 2 cents. Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
Honestly, I was going to toss that same one to you too. So Boodlebox is a great place to start. Dawn even mentioned they have great pricing if you're in a nonprofit. It's relatively cheap entry point. And also, I believe with our partnership, we actually got a really good pricing for use case. So if you sign up users that don't use it, then you don't get charged for them for the month. I believe that's how that works out. But I would double check.
And I'm putting in the chat a link to our partners page where you can get that promo code and get you 30 days free. Okay, well, we're staring down pretty much the end of our webinar, and I do have a couple of things I wanted to mention, and then we will hang out for a little while. For those of you who are aware of our after party, we will still kind of hang out just for a little bit. But I do want to mention the Kingdom Creations site in general. We've already popped a few URLs to some Kingdom Creations pages in the chat. But on our site, you'll find all of our webinar recordings. You can see the next upcoming webinar once Cowork generates the URL. You'll find those signups there, and then any of our ongoing projects and our partners. And just for funsies, I did kind of provide a few of our past webinars bulleted here, just so you can kind of see the types of things that we tend to cover in our AI ministry webinars. Pretty much all things AI. It's a lot of fun. We mentioned the tool roundup already, and then that last bullet, that Smart Tech Safe Church, that's the one on AI governance that Chris was mentioning earlier. So for those of you who are watching the recording, this is pretty much it for you. We're going to kill a recording here. But for those of you that are here live and you want to stick around, we are now heading into the after party. And in case you're wondering, we actually had AI create that music. All right, let's kill a recording. Where are we?